submit to your husbands as the Lord. For the husband has authority over his wife, just as Christ has authority over the church. So this guy who thinks he must give authority to his wife, do you blame him? Please, in short, tell us who you are and where you're from.
Well, I'm Reverend Lefoko Mogotsi. I am a husband and a father. I am originally from Luxembourg, and I now reside in Hammanskraal, Pretoria.
Is that where you fellowship?
Yes, that's where I fellowship. Sir.
Okay. You and I spoke about this off camera. Let's define our terms. What is a pastor?
Well, a pastor is a calling from an office of a calling from God that which a person operates in,
okay,
or functions in. And to take it further, a reverend is more of a scholar.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So if someone is a reverend, I should assume that maybe they went to Bible school.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's more of a scholar, Bible scholar, a theology scholar, but then a pastor is his calling.
Oh.
So a reverend is also a pastor in the office of. I mean, a reverend is in an office of a pastor.
Oh.
Yes. So.
Oh, okay. Very confusing.
So a reverend are those that come from
yes,
Bible schools,
yes,
seminaries,
yes,
those who had the vocational training.
Yes. So, but in all intents and purposes, even pastors can go to Bible schools.
Yes,
yeah,
and it is more advisable for pastors to
okay,
go to Bible school.
okay,
Just as a side note. Just to throw it in there.
Okay, so people without theological teachings, just gifted Kasemoya and stuff, you still welcome them in the church to preach.
Okay. Very much. Because before the vocation, there's a call.
Okay, it comes from within.
It comes from within.
Okay.
So you can also operate with the call. You can also get instructions, or for
okay,
a lack of a better word, from God Himself. So it is not a must, but a necessity to get a formal training.
I understand.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. At theology school, or maybe let me not go there, pastors are in the communities that I grew up in. I know pastors are, I don't want to say guardians, but counselors of the community. So the ANC would say they are leaders of society.
Sure.
So the pastors are such an integral part of most communities, in Christian communities, where if there's a fight, a pastor is called. If there's a funeral, a pastor is called. So you are integral. I want to understand. I think biblically we could see the transcripts of how pastors work. But in theological schools, are you taught to be marriage counselors and stuff? Because you marry people. I don't know the right word of putting it.
Weddings,
yes, you officiate weddings, and this is something that you do with good authority, to an extent that if it hasn't been done by a man of God or a woman of God, it is not seen ideally as a wedding. I want you to take that into cognizance when you answer this. What is a marriage?
Well, marriage is two people coming together and deciding, making that conscious decision of saying they're going to live the rest of their lives together.
Yes.
Now, marriage in biblical perspective is a creation of God, saying that two people can come together and just live the rest of their lives together, pouring what they have into each other, and also taking care of God's creation, of other God's creations.
Okay.
Now, when God said, after God created Eve, it for Adam, and I say this without trying to sound controversial.
Yes.
When I say for Adam, but Adam did not go to God to ask for Eve.
Okay.
It is God who saw that after creating everything in Eden and creating Adam, he said it is not good for a man to be alone.
Yes.
Because of he saw the boredom that was hitting Adam, or that engulfed Adam.
Yes.
And he said, it is not good for a man it is not good for a man to be alone, and therefore he created Eve. And he said, I will make a suitable partner.
Yes.
For him. A suitable partner for him. Yes. Now, after Adam woke up, he looks at Eve and he says, you are the rib of my ribs,
yes.
A bone of my bones, the flesh of my flesh.
Yes.
Now, this is Adam recognizing that indeed Eve is a suitable partner to him. So now these two people agree that they will take care of God's creations together.
Yes.
They came together and now they serve the purpose together.
Okay.
So now that is the essence and the core of what marriage is.
Okay. So you gave me a long answer.
Okay.
And I'm told I interrupt my guests. So I try every time not to. So, but the consequence of me not interrupting you is the podcast becomes long. But you gave a full explanation of what marriage is by different context. I deliberately asked you that question because Leviticus 20 verse 13 says, it says, if a man, I don't know what version is this, ne? It says, if a man lie with mankind as he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. So, this is the Bible telling us that marriage is supposed to be, in fact, more than marriage, it speaks about sexual relations. If it's an abomination, please use the Christian word abomination. Mm-hmm. If it's a man and a man, it says here, and you explained that it is of Adam and Eve. This is the original marriage.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that you are saying it's an original marriage. You haven't said it. You just gave an example. Yes. So I want to ask you again the same question. In the context of what I've just given you, what is marriage?
Well, let us go back to what you just read there before
yes.
I go to...
Okay, no problem.
Because it is a burning issue around the world.
Of course.
One of which is being discussed by many religious groups, including Christianity.
Yes.
And Leviticus speaks of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And here we speak of
marriage. True.
Intimacy is part and parcel of marriage. It is a way and a form of two married people coming together and sharing who they are with each other. I hope I'm clear on that.
Yes, I understand.
But now the context of Leviticus, in terms of marriage, the journey of the Israelites there, we cannot try to, I'm trying to be very careful here.
Yes.
We cannot try to impose it on the times that we're living in now.
Fair enough.
Therefore, when we speak for the good of this conversation, when we speak of marriage,
Yes.
I would ask you for us to refer to a man and a woman.
Okay.
Out of the good of this conversation.
Okay.
And leave the part of intimacy that Leviticus is speaking about.
Okay. Very good. I love your answer, because what you are saying is you are deliberately saying, can I politely distance myself from any other misconstrued definition of what marriage is?
Yes.
Can we only concentrate on the biblical form of the biblical explanation of a marriage? That's the one that you gave initially.
That's the one that I'm
of
going
Adam
for.
and Eve.
Yes.
So we are letting go of a possible,
without negating the other ones.
Yes. So whether there's a case for Adam and Steve, you do not want to discuss it. That's what you are saying.
Exactly.
Yes, that's very good, and I appreciate that. So we're not going to discuss Adam and Steve. We're going to discuss marriage. When we say marriage in this podcast henceforth, no, not all other podcasts. This one, it will be based on a man and a woman, right?
Yes.
Thank you very
On
much.
this particular
conversation.
Yes.
Because
I'm not afraid of coming back to discuss that.
To discuss the other one. But for this one, thank you very much for doing that. So I know marriage being a Christian institution. It is an area where the Bible feels strong about, because it's one of the basic tenets of what a family nucleus is, and it is according to me. I'm not a scholar, I'm not a man of the cloth, and you know it better. And by your definition, you've already said it. What are the gender roles in a marriage? What should ideally be happening in a marriage? I'm asking you at the backdrop of going forward. We are going to discuss why is it too confusing now. Should we go back to arranged marriages? Should people have a choice? Please explain those gender roles. What is a man supposed to do?
Well, normally when I tell people that God gave us this marriage thing is like as a white cloth, pure.
Okay.
And we somehow find a way of throwing ink and paint on it. It's straightforward. Marriage is created for order.
Oh.
And once these two people come together and they say that, look, we love each other, we want to spend the rest of our lives together, and we will take care of one another and everything that is around us, they have found the purpose of marriage. Now, the roles now therefore that comes for a man, Ephesians 5 speaks of the roles. It says now, men, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Now, it is not just a role, but there's a reference for that. In case a man loses it in his mind, he ought to go back to look at how Christ loves his church. And a woman, respect your husband. Respect your husband. You see, so that's the simplest thing. Whether you are angry, whether you are sad, whether you are happy, what you must do is just that. Love your wife as Christ did what? Loved and gave himself up for the church.
So I'm playing the devil's advocate, and sorry for the pun. Playing devil's advocate means the husband, all he needs to do is to love the wife. All the wife needs to do is to respect the husband.
Yes.
That's like the basics.
These are the basics.
Yes.
But now let us be careful of this. It does not mean that men don't need love.
Okay.
It does not mean also that women in return don't need respect.
Okay.
There should be equilibrium must be reached.
Yes.
Women, as they are also human beings before women, you ought to see them as human before women, and men must be seen as a human before men. So we all inherently, as human beings, we need these things to find balance in life.
Okay.
So there must be back and forth, giving and taking.
Okay.
As much as a man loves, a woman must also be able to reciprocate the love.
Thank you. Is a man the senior partner in marriage?
I love that question.
So the man is a senior partner.
I love that question.
In the marriage.
I love this question because it deals with submission.
Okay.
The scripture says, therefore, that women must submit to their husband. Now, this does not mean that they are not equal to men. And now I know I'm going to be bashed for saying this because it's the most unpopular statement. This statement, women submit to your husband, has been so very much overused to a point where it's being abused. It's used as a way to abuse a woman, whether in a workplace environment, whether in our communities, even it goes as far as into the church. Submission does not mean that we are not equal. The qualities that women have that can help work in the marriage, they need to be used, they need to be respected, they need to be known. So it does not mean, submission does not mean therefore that a man as a leader is a senior.
So the man is not a senior.
A man is not, in a sense that in a how do I put this?
You see, being a pastor, being a reverend nowadays is very difficult. You know?
Yeah, but then
because you have to walk on eggshells trying to explain things that the Bible is not afraid. The Bible puts it clear, and it makes it very difficult for you to give to the people what the Bible says. So a pastor was sitting right where you are. He said, unfortunately, the Bible is strict and clear on what it stands and where it stands.
Which I believe that.
Yes. So
the truth of God doesn't care about your personal feelings.
It's straight.
It doesn't care.
It's straight.
The truth of God does not seek your validation. If God says, I hate homosexuality, God hates it. It doesn't matter how I feel. I can decide to accommodate it in my church. Yeah. And
another pastor said, sitting where you are, he said, if you are afraid to tell people what the Bible says, you're gonna have problems because people are gonna question you on, but that's not what the Bible says. And unfortunately, over the past few interviews I did on this, I told people that if you are a Christian, I'm going to assume that I'm using the Bible as a reference point. And if you don't want to use the Bible, it's okay. I understand. For example, if you say, I don't want to see men and women as equals, I would appreciate that, but I would want you to give me a scriptural reference to say, where did you draw that from? And without forcing anything, like you don't want to speak about that community, I said, it's fine, let's leave it. But this is where I stand.
The reason I say that the submission can never say to a woman that you are lesser than a man. Even Christ himself, remember, even Christ himself went down, stripped himself of the king's hood and his godliness, and went down to wash his disciples' feet. At that moment, do we now say that Christ was beneath them based on the role that he had taken that time?
Hish, I'm confused now. Can we drink water?
Not a problem.
Thank you. We're drinking water because
on the issue of submission.
Yes.
The question is that submission, or the issue of a role being played by a woman, does it mean it makes her lesser than a man?
there must be a dichotomy because roles can overlap at some point. We are currently facing a dilemma as a society because we've got multiple genders and we've got multiple roles in the family. If I tell my daughter to do certain things that are ladylike, a feminist would think they have a word that they use. They say I can't remember the use, but I'm wrong in doing that. If I tell my son I want to raise him as a man, if I tell him to do certain things and not do certain things because they are not the roles of a man, I will also be subjected to scrutiny by those who feel it is wrong. And this is where I get biblical guidance. If I'm a Christian, I would want my pastor, like I said, you carry a role of a counselor in the community, or even especially in the church. If I'm confused like that, I want my son to grow up as a man, a role of a man. But then I sit there and think, what is a role of a man in the marriage?
Exactly what I was getting into. To say, okay, now that we understand that there are roles, do we now have to assign them to a certain gender? Look, there are things that a man, as a man, like you have already stated, is blessed with abilities and capabilities, and woman is blessed with that. We know that as men, we ought to bring that level of discipline into the house and into the kids, and that protective order and so forth and so on. And women will bring that nourishment and that love and care. So those are the things that comes with us being men and women.
But let me not interrupt you. Let me allow you to speak.
No. I think I know where you are going.
Yes, I wanted to say
the thing is, we know that there are men who are more in touch with their feminine side, like people like to say.
Yes.
And we know that there are women who have been called alpha females.
Sure.
Because of how they are fierce and how robust they are and how they portray their leadership skills. And because of growing up, we were thinking that that's how a man should be like. Failure to appear like that, it shows that you are weak or you are somewhat not a man. But now, even science tells us that within you have genes from your mother,
estrogen.
You have genes from your father. You have a certain level of estrogen and a certain level of testosterone inside of you. So you are bound to have that feminism inside of you.
True.
And you are bound to also be a nurturer and a caregiver. You understand? So now, what I'm saying is that the issue of submission it's not dictated by roles. The role that you are playing cannot mean that you are lesser than your partner. Marriage is a complement of our abilities and capabilities. What you cannot do, and I find that I can do, I ought to do it in support of my spouse. What I cannot do and she can do, she ought to do in support of me. So we should be complementing each other. So me coming home and saying, look, or me realizing that I'm not good in terms of finances and my wife is is better in terms of finances, does that make me a weak man or incapable of leading my family? No. We are a unit, a structure that works together.
Timothy 3, verse 11. before Kebala, I wanted to say the roles that you have in your mind of a man and a woman. Were you taught by the community that you grew up in, or were you taught in the Bible school, or from the church, from your practice? But if you don't want to answer it, it's fine. Let me continue. Timothy 3, you want to tell me where you got that?
We and I'm saying we strongly,
Yes.
we draw these things
Yes.
from where we live, from where we exist.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. You want to expand?
Yeah,
Okay, please.
Ke Motswana,
Yes,
my father is a Sotho.
yes.
I am a Christian, a Methodist for that matter,
Yes.
and my church is in the township. I pastored in villages, so you'll understand that all these contexts
Molded you to
molded
who
me
you
to
are.
be who I am.
And these roles, you got them from that.
Exactly.
It's not a crime. It's not a crime. Okay? So let's go biblical now. Timothy 3 verse 11. It states, their wives must also be of good character and must not gossip. They must be sober and honest in everything. A church helper must have only one wife. This I'm assuming three things. As an outsider, I'm going to assume three things. Number one is a woman must have, someone who's called a wife must have a good character. I don't know what that is. You'll explain if you want to. And then they must be sober and honest in everything. A church helper must have only one wife. I think this one is straightforward. I think the one that you need to explain for me is good character and sober and honest in everything. If you want, if you don't want, we can skip to another one.
So here Paul writes to Timothy about
Yes.
church leadership.
Okay.
And he says, whoever desires to be a leader in the church or a pastor must have but one wife.
Okay.
And now he expands and he explains
Okay.
what is expected from a wife of this leader.
Okay.
She must be of good character, because now that you are a unit with your wife and your husband, what you portray outside can positively or negatively affect your husband. And then now the character, who you are, what you are made of, is very important and vital for your marriage, for the purpose that you want to serve in your marriage. Now, like I said, Paul there was giving an order to Timothy to say, this is the type of a person we're looking at.
What does
we're looking
sober mean? Does sober mean she must be a teetotaler, meaning someone who doesn't drink? I've seen in the past this used as a good wife is the wife that doesn't drink. Is that accurate?
Sober in that instant can mean that, and can also mean of a clear mind, someone with a very good temperament,
Yes,
someone who
I agree.
will be able to. I like the fact that it started with, she must not be a gossiper, because if she does not know where she's standing, she'll
Yes.
be everywhere.
Yeah.
So now being sober means that she must not be drunk of anything that can influence her.
Okay.
And that can be the fashion of that time,
Okay.
the trends of that day, and so she must always be steadfast.
So you agree with the common perception of this verse mean that sober is the character, and it will also mean the normal sobriety of a wife.
Yes.
So the sobriety of a wife means good character in a way.
Yes.
So a drinking wife in this instance, it's not a good point for a wife.
In this instant, no.
Okay,
it's
jump.
not.
Let's jump into it. We've got a lot to go through, and some I'm going to skip, some I'm not going to. So I want to go back to Genesis. Ne?
Okay.
Genesis at the beginning. Ne?
Okay.
That's Genesis 3, verse 16 to 17. And he said to the woman, I will increase your trouble in pregnancy and your pain in giving birth. In spite of this, you will still have desire for your husband, yet you will be subject to him. That's Genesis 3, verse 16 to 17. In my reading, we spoke about the roles and the seniority in a marriage. So a woman here is told she's going to be subject to the husband. You have dealt on this. Do you want a second take? Because if there's no need for a second take, I can jump and save time.
Right.
Yeah.
So a man is a visionary.
Okay.
I mean, we see it even in culture, that it's very odd for a woman to go to a man and propose marriage.
Okay.
But a man, even the Bible goes on to say, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and he gains the favor of the Lord. Because a man carries a vision. A man can date a woman for over 25 years, calling her a partner, without proposing marriage to her. So
a man can date 25 years.
I mean, why would you want to date someone's kids for over 2 weeks? 2 weeks is enough, man. Claiming that you are trying to get to know each other. You don't even know yourself. So you want to spend more time getting to know her. You get to know her, you don't like her, you find it, nah man, I don't like her, you dump her, you go to marry another one. It's unfair to these girls. Now, Eva, let me go back to the point that I was making. A man is a visionary. A man carries a vision. A man sees a woman and he will see a wife in her. And that's when the man will propose a marriage to a woman. Say, this is now me wanting to build life with you. And now the proposal should be expanded to, this is the life that I want to live with you. But unfortunately for us, it does not happen like that. Unfortunately, we are tired of time. And a woman, after the proposal has been made, that's when now she goes back, look at the proposal and say, okay, now that this man has proposed this to me, is this the kind of life that I want to live? If that's what she wants to live, she will see a husband in you.
Okay.
And she will agree to marry you. Now, the both of you will map a way to the life that the man proposed.
Okay.
The wife is what is subject to the man. That's what the Bible says. Okay? It says that. But the both of you will work into making that vision materialize.
Okay.
The both of you.
Yes.
The submission part ended when the woman said, is this the life that I want to live?
Okay. So
she submits under the vision. Because if you do not have a vision, then
can we agree or disagree? Is the wife the subject to the man?
The wife is a subject of a man's vision. Because if you don't have a vision, what the woman is submitting to?
Is the husband the senior partner in the marriage?
The husband is a visionary.
Okay. Malachi 2, verse 2. Men have married women who worship foreign gods. May the Lord remove all those who did this, and never again let them participate in the offerings of our nation. And never again let them participate in the offerings our nation brings to the Lord Almighty. Should I read it again so you can explain it? Yeah. Men have married women who worship foreign gods. May the Lord remove all those who did this, and never again let them participate in the offerings our nation brings to the Lord Almighty. That's Malachi 2, verse 2.
Remember, there was an instruction from God telling the Israelites not to marry outside their tribe.
Yes.
So now this is what the prophet is saying, that there are people who were ignoring this instruction because of how difficult it is for someone who was raised worshipping a certain God to come and try and to come and learn a certain way, a certain style of living. So that was what primarily what God was trying to say. You know what? Don't complicate your lives. Marry within each other. Don't go outside trying to bring someone in, because they might also pollute what you already know. They might erase what you already know. They might give you a tough time. So there are men who were not being obedient to that. They were going outside to marry outside.
From the outside.
From the outside.
Okay. So I'm of a view, and it's my view, you can contest it, that I believe there's a spiritual, religious, and an important role that pastors play in the community, and especially those of a role where if me and my significant other are having quarrels and are disagreeing, and we go to, even if we don't go to your church, but we are praying couple, we could call you to say, come and sit down, and we put our issues, because remember, we don't come from the history of shrinks and stuff. So we come, whether you mediate or you conciliate or whatever is it, but you will assist us see things. And when you come as a pastor, I expect you to have us understand things from a biblical perspective, to tell us what is happening. And I'm feeling pastors are put under pressure by, I don't want to say the modern society and its media, to step on eggshells and you know, and not state things as they are. Because if, for example, maybe an old couple would say, I'm giving an example, an old couple would say, I usually on weekends come back after 10 o'clock because I watch football somewhere. And then you say, but did your wife give you permission? You say, no, I don't need permission. And then the second week, the wife comes back once in a year. She comes back after 2200 at night. Whew, a big war ensues. They call you to come and sit. And then you ask him, did you give her permission? He will say, I did not give permission, and he expects you to understand. The reason I'm asking you this is because you spoke about a vision. Yeah. And a vision and authority are two different things. It's in Ephesians 5, verse 22 to 23. It says, wives, submit to your husbands as the Lord. Let me repeat. Wives, submit to your husbands as the Lord. For the husband has authority over his wife, just as Christ has authority over the church. So this guy who thinks he must give authority to his wife, do you blame him?
Look, the basis of the main basic, I think, also of marriage is simple as do unto others
as you'd like to be done unto you.
As you'd like them to do unto you.
So you are saying that now equal.
So what I'm saying is that if you know that you do not want to feel the pain that you are inflicting, then do not. Because like I'm saying, like I already said, you give yourself, I mean, that's give yourself as Christ did for the church.
Yeah.
So this shows that the church will unequivocally submit to Christ based on what Christ did for it.
Okay, so in short, you are saying if the husband goes drinking every weekend,
he's teaching the wife to do that.
He must not expect the wife. Okay, he must not blame, and he must not act surprised. He must not act surprised when the wife does it. Exactly. Because he automatically gave the wife authority.
Exactly. And now the problem with wives is that they multiply these things.
Sure. What does it mean?
Now it means that he will do it twice more than you have done.
Yo.
You understand? Because the authority you must first have.
Yeah.
For yourself before the wife.
Ish.
You must be able to say no to yourself. And say yes to yourself. Discipline yourself first.
Ish. So if I cheat, cheat, she'll double cheat.
I mean, and that's how normal.
Okay, so departing from that, one thing I've learned is you say, if you don't want your wife to do something, also don't do it.
Also don't do it.
Okay. She's not a child.
No. And, just to further expand on that, how did Christ give himself for the church?
I don't know.
Went to the cross.
Sacrificed himself.
He went to the cross. carried the church, and by the church I mean all of us, our sins away. So he went to the cross knowing that we might sin again, but hoping that whenever we are confronted with the decision to sin, we remember the sacrifice that he made on the cross and the love that he portrayed for us, and we choose not to. So as a husband, giving yourself over, meaning pouring love into this woman, and the woman reciprocating with respect and also the love. Therefore, it means that also you, when you are tempted by the decision to cheat, to hurt, and to break this woman, you will constantly remember that you have given yourself for this woman. Therefore, you will choose not to do that. You will be committed to the vision of your marriage.
Okay. All right, sharp. It's very difficult. So I think everyone knows what Paul told the Corinthians about women keeping quiet in church and stuff, and it other people say it perpetuates patriarchy in churches or in society. I don't know if it does, but so that's not the only thing he said. So in Deuteronomy, it is said, Deuteronomy 22, verse 5 to 6, it says, women are not to wear men's clothing, and men are not to wear women's clothing. The Lord your God hates people who do such things. So someone told me, you see this verse, when I'm Ashian, it shows that women, because they use that she's the one who ate that snake offering. You see, that's why she's punished with childbirth and stuff. So it says women wear pants today, and figuratively in popular language, the word wearing the pants seems to indicate that woman wants authority when she does that, and people are confusing it. So I want to clear this up. What are men's clothing? What are men's clothing? Because if you look at what people used to wear in those times, the Hebrews, it will be like things like skirts and stuff. Mandela used to make a joke with that, with Desmond Tutu, to say, a man who wears skirts wants to tell me I must not have two wives. He was talking about Grasha, and yes, and he said, so I want to understand. So those times they would wear stuff that, to me now it looks like it's female clothing, because it looks like a dress and a skirt. So I want to know, we want this part to be clear, so people must not use it to hammer women unfairly if it's unfair. What are men's clothing? What are women's clothing? If it's not clear, it's fine, you can leave it.
Well, I don't think it's very much clear enough, based on what you have already indicated, that the Jews would wear almost similar stuff.
Yes.
But there must have been, I believe, there must have been a distinctive clothing that I must go back to
so
look into what exactly would differentiate between a man and a woman. Because now what we see, they wear what we call a skull cap. Most Jewish men would wear that, the skull cap, and women don't normally wear that. But then I don't have a biblical references for now as to what exactly is distinctive to.
All right, no, thank you. So, because I'm thinking as well that what if maybe this is just, this is me thinking, what if it's just gender roles? Maybe they're just telling us that don't act like a man if you're not a man. Don't act like a woman. I'm just innocently asking.
That could be another explanation to say men must be seen in that community, and women must be seen in that community, because like we said, the roles in that context were very much assigned.
So I want to read two. They may not be related, but just choose the one that you want to go with. It's 1 Corinthians and Numbers 36. I'll just go with 1 Corinthians 7, verse 39 to 40. It says a married woman is not free as long as her husband lives. But if her husband dies, she is free to be married to any man she wishes, but only if he is a Christian. You can hold that one, and then I'll read another one. Numbers 36 verse 8. Every woman who inherits property in an Israelite tribe must marry a man belonging to that tribe. In this way, all Israelites inherit property of their ancestors. So you see this, the reason I read both of them together, they're talking, it is projected to see this woman as a commodity and as a subject, because if someone marries her, they're taking away this wealth away from the Israelites. And you do know that the Israelites are God's own praise, chosen people. And the Corinthians is speaking about what she must do when her husband dies. So I want to ask you, which of the two do you want to? You can handle them together as long as you can do it very quickly, or you choose one. They're almost the same.
Let's just fuse them and work with them.
Okay.
In like I've already alluded, that the Israelites were trying by all means to keep the wealth that they left Egypt with.
Okay.
So they were trying by all means to make sure that their culture and their practices don't make them lose what they have. They would rather retain it. So, and also the fights that they would have with other tribes were costing them, and to a point where they would cost them their systems of believing and the systems of worshiping God. So they did not want to be weakened economically and spiritually in any other way by anything, and in this time in this instant by marriage. So they would say, okay, since if a woman is married, they ought to leave. They must be married by one of us, so that we don't get any confusion, and we get to keep also the laws that were taught by our forefathers. Because I don't want to dwell too much on the issue that the woman leaves, but also we must look at the possibility of a man coming into the tribe.
Okay, I'll tell you why I'm reading all of this. So the feminists that I spoke to off camera, they are afraid to come and sit here. They say, do you know how many laws or instructions are given for women not to do things against the backdrop of what the Bible tells men not to do? This is why I find it difficult to be a Christian. And I went through some of these things. For example, it says, if a man sells his daughter as a slave, she is not to be set free as male slaves are. So if you are to set free the other slaves, but the female one must not be set free, it again goes to say her husband has the right to affirm or annul any vow or promise that she has made. So in Numbers 20 verse 13, it says, even if a woman makes a vow, a husband can come and annul it. You understand? So it says that spirituality thing again. You understand? To say it's not, it can be level pegging. One has to be the most senior. And in this instance, I understand a feminist who says a man is assigned that role. But I understand. I understand if you have dwelt enough on this and you don't want to discuss it, and then we can jump to another. I understand if if you don't want to continue, we can skip it. You go to another one because you've dwelt on it a lot. But the ball is in your court.
Yes, I think I've already highlighted it and enlightened it. And as for Paul, it goes back to what I said. It's more easier, it's more better for you to marry a Christian if you're a Christian, and more especially if, like Paul says, if your husband died and you or your spouse dies, it's more better for you to marry within the Christian belief than go marry outside and having to explain. And we see this even in African cultures, that they would rather you marry within Botswana, Motswana, so that they don't have to come and explain isiZulu, isiXhosa, or whatnot. But personally, if you would ask, do I subscribe to that? Definitely no.
Okay.
Definitely I do not.
Matthew 22, you will see I'm deliberately mixing the Old and the New Testament. Because in Matthew, Jesus does say, I'm not here to do away with the law of Moses. And I don't want to go into the covenants that he entered into and stuff, but I just want to show people that this is consistent in the Old and the New. This consistent balancing of the two roles. He says on Matthew 19 verse 9, I tell you then that any man, let me read this other one. I don't want that one, I want this one. Matthew 22 verse 24. I want to leave that one. Matthew 22 verse 24. Moses said that if a man who has no children dies, his brother must marry the widow so that they can have children who will be considered the dead man's children. So in other words, if I am to live a short life as a married man, I die, and there's chances that my family name will die with me, but I've got a sibling, whether older, not specific, it can come and assist me in continuing my marriage. Feminists hate that.
Well, I do too. I mean, yes. I mean, the thought of my wife with any man. Yes. I do too, but we don't serve a vindictive God who is very much imposing these things on us. You understand? We serve the God that we can communicate with through many various and different
communicate
ways.
With, but not negotiate with.
We can negotiate with him.
You can negotiate with God?
Yes, we can.
You said he's not a vindictive God.
He is not. He is not.
But is he a merciful God?
Very much so.
Okay.
He's a merciful and a gracious God. And he invites us even to say, come, let us now settle the matter. God himself in the book of Isaiah, he says, come now, let us settle the matter. Okay. And these are the things that we go and enter into his presence and say, God, this is not us.
Okay.
In the context that we are living in, it is not us. It is not how you wired the world to be like. Perhaps for Moses, perhaps in the book of Leviticus and those people, it worked. But contextually now, here in this day and age, where we are at in South Africa, Hammanskraal, that can never happen.
All right.
How do we now, God, deal with this issue? And we see that indeed God is merciful. He gives us this brilliant signs where if, God forbid, I'm found that I'm left with 6 months and my marriage is still young, I can go and freeze my man with my sperms, and then we have artificial insemination if my kids want, if my wife wants my kid, and we can discuss.
So you're a jealous husband.
I'm a jealous husband, like a jealous God.
Okay, sure. So we spoke about the challenges, and unfortunately, because of the time, we understand what the Bible says about marriage, but you want to. I don't want to use the word tone down, but you've got a lighter version or a modern version that is dynamic, that is not stringent from the Bible for modern day couples. And I want you to give this message in closing. Like, what is it that you want them to understand in saving their marriage? If someone is going through marital problems, what can you give?
Like you already alluded, my take on marriage is not very straight in a matter of speaking. I view marriage as a very beautiful thing that is created by God. Marriage is to be celebrated. Marriage is to help us put order in our lives. There are a lot of things happening in the world that could have long been prevented if most of these gentlemen would marry our sisters. and
these guys must get married.
These guys must really get married.
Guys get married.
I advocate for our women.
Yes.
Guys get married, and so I believe that it's when men and women understand why they came together, because the Bible says, can two work together if they don't agree? So that's where the issue of proposal comes from. When a man proposes and you agree to the proposal, you agree that we're going to walk this journey together with love, peace, harmony, and patience. That's the most important.
You said you are advocating for women, and you are telling men to get married.
To marry our sisters.
To marry our sisters. Yeah. Someone who comes from planet Jupiter, has just landed on Earth, would think there must be something good for women in marriage. Why do they want to be married? Why are you forcing people to marry people? If it was nice to get married, men wouldn't be persuaded. They would just marry. Why do you think men are reluctant to get married? Because
of the hard stuff. They only hear about the hard stuff of marriage and not the good part of marriage. So I want no. Marriage is a beautiful thing.
Is it?
Akuna diabo mo in marriage. Akuna nyala or that way. No,
yes.
There's nothing like that. And we need to put that more. We need to put that out more, that marriage is a good thing.
So people say if that pastor who motivated us to get married, if we could go and ask him, what is this?
I know they can come anytime.
All right. No,
if they find themselves for Bamakala, they can come anytime. I'll definitely help them out.
Yeah.
Because we are just stripped of time. But this issue of I'm still getting to know her.
Yes.
I mean, man, you also don't know yourself.
It's abusive. Ne?
It's abusive. You 4 kids, 17
So it's
years
like testing
later.
a car. It's like test driving a car every week. You come, I'm testing, but you're not buying.
But you don't even buy it. You end up saying, no man, I don't like this car. You go to another dealership and get yourself a brand new car. That one now, you already stopped it. No, and I'm not saying women can.
Don't blame me for saying women are
not.
It's not me.
But I'm just asking myself. I'm 4 kids later, 17 years.
Yes.
I'm still getting to know her. No, if I write a book now. Yes. And you read it, and 5 years later, saying this is who I am, and 5 years later, I write the book with the same title.
You promise to come back.
I'm coming back.
Thank you.